was walking down the street. I was minding my own affair. I had a dip of skull in my mouth. Didn't have no hair. I didn't want to fight. I didn't want to scuffle. I'm just headed down that street, doing the crack house shuffle. Crack house shuffle. Ready?
Okay, this piece here is the part that will bolt up into the box. This actually screws into here, okay, and this is adjustable. So you make this the length you need, and it slips down through this center hole in this light fixture. And then you actually run this part to hold the lens up and screws on to here. So that's kind of how that works. So when I get that mounted up there, I'll show you more.
Okay, so we've got the ground hooked to the ground wire, white hook to white, black on black. And I always take this ground screw on the box, run the ground around it, tighten it up, and then run it over to the ground going back to the box. So then these little screws here are what mounts this up here into this. And you can see that you've got two different sets of these. They're a wider bracket and a thinner bracket. It doesn't really matter which one you use, it depends on the box. If I had wanted to use the wider bracket, I would have had to put the screw in this hole and not this one. But you can see that this box wouldn't allow that because the box is in the way. So we're going to have to use the ones on the inside. So then we're going to lift this up and connect it in. Okay, so you can see I slid this up in here, and these are, if you look real closely, these are notched. So you stick the screw in here and you slide it over, just as I did here. Then you tighten it down until it's up against the ceiling. And then we put this piece in. I usually just screw it up until it kind of gets to where it's up in there bar. Then we're gonna see if this fits. See, that's just got a little bit sticking out, and that's what we want. And we'll put this little cap on here. So what we'll do now is we're gonna tighten this down so that doesn't move out anymore. And then we're gonna put some light bulbs in. And I bought some LED bulbs. You can put up to a 60-watt bulb in this fixture. So this is I think a 9-watt bulb that acts like a 60. So obviously you're using a lot less electricity. So, all right, show you when I get done.
And then we're looking for warmer temperatures to gradually get up to, like, the mid 50s by Sunday, even up to 60 by Monday. But it's going to take a little time to get there. So if we still have school closings and delays.
All right, there's one down. All right, he's got another piece cut there. Now, as I talked about, we're going to do some painting on the ceilings before we put the light fixtures up in those bedrooms and the ceiling fans. This is what I use. It's fairly inexpensive. The paint color seems to be very consistent. As many of you know, there must be 500 different colors of white. And so I want all the rental properties and all of the properties that we flip and sell to have the same color in case I have to do any touch-up work. So I just use the same paint all the time. It's fairly inexpensive. In this area, I think this 5-gallon jug goes for $49. And I buy it at Home Depot. And a lot of people, I know some of the guys I watch on YouTube, they only spray paint. They do not roll anything. And they'll come in here and and I've got a spray painter or a spraying, you put the dip tube down in a 5-gallon bucket and you can come in here and you can spray this whole room. So, but they'll tape off all the windows, and they would tape off everything you don't want painted white, and they would just come in here and paint the whole thing. Paint the ceilings, the whole thing. I find that by the time I tape everything off and clean up afterwards, I can have the room rolled and painted. And people say, well, you can't do that. There's no way you can get that done quickly. It's a mess. Paint gets all over you. And I don't think that's the case, because what I do is I use a paint liner in a tray. I use one of these rollers that has a convertible on it, I call it. It's got the cover so that you don't get the splash. And then I carry a brush with me, so I roll and trim all at the same time. So anyway, I'll show you how I get it done. Okay, the first coat is on in this room. And it took me 16 minutes from start to finish. Now I haven't cleaned up my pan yet because I'm going to go on to the next room and do the same thing. So, show you more. Okay, as you can see here, he's got it all kind of laid out. It's not graded or thin. He doesn't have the thin set on it, and it's set yet. But he's getting them all cut so they fit together. This is going to look really nice. That large tile is going to make that bathroom look really wide, so that's good. Okay, well, Thaddeus has got all of this cut out and ready to go in to the master bath. We'll all go in here, and so. Before we put this concrete board down, or backer board, or they got all kinds of names for it, this stuff. He put thin set on the floor and then ran the screws in so it's tight against the floor. And we're using a pre-mixed thin set on this only because this is what we had left over from our job. And so this is the brand we're using. Sometimes we use a powder that we mix with water, but on this one we're actually using this pre-mix, so it takes a little less time. It does take longer to dry, I will tell you that, from using it in the past. So he's going to get some laid out there, and then he's going to take his trowel. We're using a 1/4 inch U-shaped trowel. And we're going to get some lines put on that, or he's going to get it all marked, laid down with showing the lines on it, and then he's going to set the tile. I hear old Tammy Wynette singing in the background there. They'll probably take this off of YouTube because of that, but
I was at her and George Ritchie's house about 15 years ago. George Ritchie was her husband at the time when she passed away, and he actually did some studio producing for a band that I was with for us. He's dead now as well, so. Alright, so he's going to pick these pieces up, just like a puzzle, and he's going to put the puzzle together in there. Now this tile is pretty forgiving as far as the thickness on it is pretty much all runs the same. So you don't have to worry about one tile being higher than another. Sometimes when you use real stone, which this is not, the accent tiles he's using are real stone, but you have to kind of tap them around to get them all level. So, but these are pretty accurate when they're man-made. And he's using an 1/8-inch spacer. With this wide tile, I find that it looks better when you use a smaller grout joint. But then that's just a preference I have. So. Alright, I'll show you more when he gets more of it done.
Okay, this is where the ceiling fan goes that we talked about. So we're going to slip back here and turn the breaker off. Like we did before. And I think it says number 9 right there. So we're going to shut that one off. And we're going to go put the light up.
Instructions. Limited lifetime warranty. I don't know whose lifetime that is, mine or the fans. You could probably read that and find out. There's a balancing kit. I've never seen anybody use one of those. Here is desiccant, silicone, gel. Throw away, do not eat. This thing's got remote controls and everything. With the light bulbs. Alright, let's get this all assembled. Okay, what I did was I mounted this directly to the fan housing because I did not want it hanging from the ceiling. If you add this in there, then it would have the gap between here and then you could hang it on an uneven surface like a tilted ceiling or something. And with all this wiring, you can buy the extra tube. You can get one up to 3 feet long if you had a real tall ceiling. But of course I don't have that here, so we're just going to take and cut these wires off about 6-inch pigtail, and then we're going to mount that directly to the ceiling. And we have to put this bracket up there, and then this in 10 hooks to this. So, all right, show you more. All right, he's finishing that up. It's all laid down there, and once that dries, and like I said, this pre-mixed stuff takes a little longer to dry, so a good 48 hours is what the box calls for, but we probably won't be back over here till Monday anyway, so it'll be good and ready to go. Get it grouted, and then we can get the trim on, get everything painted, so it's going to look nice. Okay, this ceiling fan has a remote control. So we already talked about how we're going to mount this flush, which takes up a lot of room here. I mean, there's limited room here to put all this stuff in because there's a transmitter that goes up here.
Right here. So I've already got this installed. It just slips in up here,
Out of the way, supposedly.
and you just hook white to white, black to black. This is the antenna that will actually stick down in here, I think. I gotta check to make sure it doesn't have to go outside, but I don't think so. Okay, so then it's gonna take 2 of us, because one of us is gonna have to hold this up here, and then we'll hook these wires, the same colors on the fan, the white, blue, and black. So one thing I always do is take these wires and twist them tight before we put them into the wire nuts. So, show you. Okay, now we're going to take these brackets and we're going to mount them to the paddles. These paddles up.
Kicks off on March 15th in Kansas City. It includes stops in Indianapolis, Dallas, Chicago, and more. Tickets.
Now this particular one, you can mount them silver side out or wood side out. But since this is the type of flooring I'm going to put in this room, I'm going to put the wood side out. So that means we're going to mount the bracket
And the new team orthopedic medicine center is just one more reason to choose Greene County General Hospital.
and comes with these nice little fiber washers and screws.
Your tax refund? Invest in a brand new home. Use your refund for your down payment. Dutch Townhomes and office offers single wides, double wides, and modular homes. Starting out at $39.9, completely installed on your property. Call Dutch Townhomes or Northernville to give you added savings each month for your utility bills.
I like to get these started before I torque them down because I want them tight. I don't want the blades to fall off.
Current price times 1,000
But I also want to make sure that the screws are all started before I tighten them down.
The BASF Liberty system with Liberty herbicide makes it easier. Start with a 2+ bushel per acre bat advantage.
So
Our system input
they're all started in there.
control. You get access to 3 hours or more crop compared to as
So there's the first one. So I'll get the rest of those put together and then we'll put them up.
Okay, so we got the blades put together, and now we're ready to mount the blades to these screws. And you're going to notice that this little block, I'm like, what is that little block? That is actually put in there by the manufacturer of the fan, and they're adjusted out. You can see they've got an adjustment on it. They're supposed to be adjusted out so that because this is hard to turn. They don't want this thing spinning or moving around a lot in shipping. Because it can, damage the bearings. If it's, I know that no one ever drops boxes or kicks them around or anything during shipment, but, But, so that's their way of kind of protecting it. So what we got to do is we got to come up here with I'm going to use the screw gun, and we're going to take these screws all out around here so that this is freed up. And then we'll start mounting the blades in. Up here you can get close, because I don't want to take these screws out, so All right, so we're going to take these screws out like I talked about. And of course we got to reuse these screws so we don't want to lose them. And of course these are holding those shipping blocks, so we got to take all those out. These paddles, put the screw in here. Now let's just kind of get them started. And we're going to have to back this screw out here. Spun around on me, didn't it? There's one. All right, show you more. Okay, so now we're down to the light kit. You can either put a light kit on this fan, or you can put a cap on it if you didn't want a light in here. But I'm going to go ahead and put the light fixture on it because we bought one that matches this light. So, so that's this apparatus. So basically we're going to hook white to white, black to black, and then this with these little screws here will mount to that fan. And I said white to white, black to black, but I actually think the wire coming down in here is blue. So in this case you're going to hook blue to black and then white to white. So, all right, show you more. Okay, so we got it up there, and here's the controller. Now this actually mounts to the wall. I've just got the screws sitting in there, and after we get the walls painted, we'll probably screw that over here to the wall. But here's the switch for it. So I've got the switch on. All right, and so we're going to hit the light button, and then it's got a dimmer on it, so you can dim it down, so you can do that mood lighting. And then once it's down, it'll come back up. And then you've got 3 speeds on here. Now if you want to reverse it, you do have to go up there and click the little switch to reverse it. Right now I've got it so it's blowing down. So if we hit the medium speed, and we can hit the high speed, and it'll get the whipping around there pretty good. And then when you want to stop it, you can hit the stop button. Now one thing this lamp or this system does feature is you can shut it off, and then it will remember where it's at when you turn it back on. See? So anyway, all right. Show you more later. Hope you've enjoyed these videos. Tried to get a little bit of stuff done over here so you could see what was going on. So probably next time we talk to you we'll be painting, I'd say, or putting flooring down or something. So anyway, talk to you later. Bye.
Giving Tallulah a run. Hi, baby.